What are our innate resources of unification? All right, that is the question for today. And hello, everyone out there. Glad you could make it. And my name is Thomas. I run this channel, and welcome. I do mostly educational videos on all kinds of different topics that I think are important to our development and evolvement as we kind of go through this great awakening. For the first few months on this channel, we're going to be going through kind of foundational work in the study of Tree of Life. The Tree of Life is an ancient diagram. It comes from all the way back to ancient Egypt or before. And we use it in order to map out our faculties of consciousness, or map out consciousness in general. And it's a great tool that we can use because, and it's a foundation because when we learn other subjects after this, many other important subjects after this, they just become so much easier to learn once we have the tree as our base for understanding these things. The tree is more or less an elaborate mnemonic device, and it just helps us recall, it helps us prioritize, and it helps us just put everything into perspective. So that's why we're starting with the Tree of Life. As you can see, the tree here has 10 different circles, or what are called spheres, sephiro in the Hebrew. And they're numbered 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then we also have the abyss right here, which is a dotted or implied circle or sphere. And then we have a 0 above the tree, which makes a total of 12 different categories. These are really a schematic of our 12 faculties of consciousness. And so, that's what we have to start with. Now, in my teaching model and what we're going to be covering later in the show here today, we get into another level of depth here, because the Tree of Life is something that you can apply to anything. And so what I've done is I've applied the Tree of Life to each one of the 12 categories. So I've broken down each one of the 12 categories into its 12 components. And so that makes a total of 144 different, like, mini faculties or mini aspects, or what I call fractal faculties of life, spirituality, history, and consciousness. And these things are not chronological stages, but they are dramatic stages. So there's 144 different dramatic stages that we go through as we move up the Tree of Life. We basically, the universe involved in this direction, and we evolve in this direction. So that's kind of the direction that we go when we get started. We start from the bottom, and we try to elevate ourselves, elevate our consciousness by gradually opening up each one of the spheres, accessing it, and kind of like mastering, or at least becoming fluent with the faculties that are involved at each one of the different spheres. This is a lifelong or multi-lifelong process. Some people may live their whole life and never even get out of the 10th sphere. Many people live their whole life and never get out of the ninth sphere. And I would venture to say that most people live their whole life and not get out of the 10th, ninth, and 8th sphere. So once we can get out of the 8th sphere, then the path is open toward, developing these higher spheres. But, each one of them is a multi-year, kind of endeavor. Okay, so just to give you a quick description. Okay, now the final thing is that I have a list of the 144 different fractal faculties, or the 144 different stages that I've compiled, and that will help you as we go through the different 144, each one per day. And you can get that for free if you just click the link in the description. So I'll send that out to you if you're interested. It'll help you just, kind of with the blueprint. It give you a blueprint. And so it makes it much easier to follow along. Okay, now to go through the 12 different categories, the 10th sphere is about our survival, our wild animal consciousness. This is the law of the jungle, kill or be killed, the state of nature. It is about the life force. It is about our fight or flight response. It is about the functions of the body, the involuntary functions of the body that keep us alive. Okay, then the ninth sphere is about basically the learning cycle. This is opened up in the first few years of our lives when we're at home. This is our domestic consciousness or domestic faculty, where we're growing up in the home, and our caregivers are really our models, or they're what we look up to, what we're devoted to, and we basically are highly receptive to our environment here, and we tune into our environment and we watch what our caregivers do, and then we learn how to imitate that. We imitate what they do, and then we practice it over and over again till we get it. And then we have it memorized. So that's really what the life cycle is, or the cycle of learning here at the ninth sphere. We pick up things from our environment in the home. Unfortunately, the ninth sphere is blind, so it picks up negative influences as well as positive indiscriminately. Okay, then the eighth sphere is kind of similar in that it is basically blind, but where the ninth sphere is the domestic consciousness, this is the public consciousness. So this is what we get as we start going out into the real world. We go to school, we go to church, and other kind of institutional things, even go to the mall or whatever. And this is really, our faculties here are our belief systems and our rational, logical faculty, kind of the lowest aspect of our logical faculty, where it's a superficial kind of logic. And this is where all the establishment is located, all the resources are located here, all the institutions are located here, and these are where the expert opinion lies, the consensus worldview, and the did I say conventional wisdom? The everybody knows that kind of ideal, and they create this consensus. They tell you that really this is what everybody believes. And so even if you don't believe it because your own experience contradicts it, you're kind of forced to give it lip service and kind of pretend like you believe it anyway, because this is where all the resources are located. So kind of to a certain extent, we all have to live a lie a little bit just to kind of get into the A sphere and accept the belief systems that they're foisting on us. Now, the A sphere is a trickster and a deceiver. So what they're telling us to believe is not necessarily true. It might be, but it might not be. It's there to manipulate you to get you under control. They want control over you. And they'll do it by telling you a lie, or they'll do it by telling you the truth, whatever works out the best for them. And who is they? They is the establishment, the institutions, the powers that be. There are many different theories as to who those people are. We'll get into that at a later time. Okay, then, so you end up kind of inverting your asphere through things like rationalization, where the rationalization is that you end up you make excuses for the asphere, and you delegitimize your own experience. This is, the classic, the emperor or the king wears no clothes kind of situation, where you're convinced that everybody else believes this. And so even though you can see right in front of your face that it's not true, you give it lip service. You pretend like you believe in it anyway, because there's too much resistance if you don't. The level of if you don't buy into the asphere, you are shunned. And so you have to negotiate this asphere, but that's easily done. The problem is that most people consider the asphere to be kind of like the be-all, end-all. This is the destination. This is the goal, and this is the measure of success. But as the tree shows, this is just one of 12 different faculties that we have to open, and it's not even one of the high ones. It's the third one out of 12. So it's not a destination. It's just a part of the path, and then you keep moving through it. So if you can keep your logic and reason intact here, you just kind of keep moving. You get your resources, what you need, and then you keep going. But if you allow your asphere, your logic and reason, and your belief systems to be inverted, you end up then getting stuck here and calling this, your success and your destination. Now, if we continue to move on to this, we move over to the seventh sphere, and where the eighth sphere is about the real world, the seventh sphere is about the imaginary world. So we go over here imagining a better world, a better eighth sphere. We've been in here, we recognize that it's got various shortcomings, and we imagine how they could be better and how we can improve them. And so these are the faculties of the seventh sphere: the imagination, also the inspiration, our inspiration to follow other people who may have done the same thing, who also tried to improve on the eighth sphere and either made a mark or at least made a mark on you by how they tried to improve the eighth sphere. They were using their imagination, and you now have their shoulders to stand upon. Also, our faculty of intuition, which is our ability to kind of like be curious and wonder about how to make it better, and go inside and ask yourself, how could I make this better? And this intuition will give you answers. The answers are correct. Whether we're able to translate those answers correctly is another matter. And so the answers really need to be verified as well. Also here we have our creative spark, our ability to come up with new, novel things that haven't been arrived at before. And our pleasure principle, our ability to come up with things that are pleasing to others and ourselves. Okay, so these are all seventh sphere creative faculties, and they allow us to arrive at, alternatives to the eighth sphere, whether that's a poem or, an essay or a painting or an invention. These things are all in the seventh sphere and all attempting to provide alternatives to the eighth sphere. And then also at the top of the seventh sphere, we experience the mission in life. We come to an understanding of our mission in life, where we have a secret mission that we are uniquely qualified to undertake and to fulfill. Whereas at the eighth sphere, it's like a cookie cutter. At the eighth sphere, it's, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a lawyer, I'm going to be a banker. At the seventh sphere, it is, I'm going to be the very best version of me. You know, the very best version that can contribute to the world. So that's what we arrive at, and that gives us the impetus or the inspiration to climb the tree further. So we go up to the sixth sphere only to discover that we were already there in the first place, because the sixth sphere is really our essence, and it is our free will faculty, which boils down to our ability to pay attention and our ability to make decisions. So that's the free will faculty. And what we find is that we are here. This is where we're located. But when we pay attention, paying attention is a vector. It has a direction. And we find ourselves fixating our attention on this 8, 9, and 10 matrix here, because this is what we're comfortable with. And so this is what we generally pay attention to. Now, we can use our other aspect of our free will faculty, which is our ability to make decisions, to make the decision, as painful as it might be and as scary as it might be, to turn our attention around and focus our attention on the higher aspects. You know, in some cases, this can be too much truth for people. People will say, I can't go there, you know, because you're going like into reality, as opposed to kind of this fantasy world that you, this idealized world that, you know, you have here. And so we can turn our attention, avert our attention from the eighth and ninth, especially spheres, and to focus it up the tree toward our higher aspects, even though these things are largely unknown at this point because we haven't really tapped them in. And we can, in a certain extent, we sometimes have tapped that we might have glimpses of how these things work that have occurred in our lives. We don't necessarily develop these spheres like one at a time, like you have one and then you spend 2 years here and then you spend 3 years here, and you know, we might find ourselves, you know, surprisingly, like say if we do something really extraordinary, like we run a marathon, or we you know, have a certain event in our life, or a near-death experience or something, we might find ourselves up here for a moment, and you know, it gives us a little bit of insight into what that entails, but we can't maintain it because we don't really have the foundation. So we have to lay the foundation and then move up the tree. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to point our attention at is the fifth sphere, which is our sense of justice. This is otherwise known as karma, and this is our ability to be just with other people and things, and you know, other beings. And karma basically grades us on our violence, our level of waste, and our level of violation. So if we are in the habit of violating people, you know, treating them kind of less than ourselves, then we will get that kind of feedback in return. Karma is like a feedback loop. You can think of this as like a mirror here. As you sow, so shall you reap. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And what comes around goes around. So this is how our karma operates. But if we are actually paying attention, we get that feedback and we recognize, hey, you know what? I'm not really happy with the result of that action. Perhaps if I started to try to eliminate the amount of waste that I committed, then I would, get a better result in return. So we can use our karma not as our enemy, but as our friend and teacher by paying attention to the kind of feedback it gives us. The negative results are always where the most learning is going to be able to take place. And the fourth sphere then is kind of similar. It's a counterpart to the fifth sphere, where the fifth sphere is about the enforcement of the natural law and the natural order of the universal law and order of things. The fourth sphere is about the articulation of that natural law or order. And this comes from, your ancient holy books, also your theories of everything, your cosmologies, that pretty much every civilization has at least one version of these. Some individuals have developed versions of these, and I feel like the tree of life itself is a version of this. But so these are all, media that purport to tell you how everything works, how it's all put together. And so this happens here at the fourth sphere, the universal law, also the universal love and universal language, innate things that we have within us that we can develop. And what I recommend here at the fourth sphere is that you try to take in as many cosmologies as you can and compare and contrast them, and then use your intuition to get you to take you the rest of the way to like what is really true, because all the cosmologies have something to offer, but all of them have inaccuracies also. And so weeding through all of them and then asking your intuition to take you all the way, to much closer to the truth. And that's really the approach. So this is what we'll be talking about here today at the end. Okay, then the abyss is about the psychic powers, which are based on our coincidences, omens, synchronicities that happen in our lives that are like weirdnesses, things that are weird, that are, wow, that's, it gets your attention because it's something that is strange and that it doesn't normally happen to you. And that is something that should be triggering the first part of our psychic powers, which is our psychic receptivity, just being able to notice that that is an important thing that's happened to us. And then the second part is our psychic heat, which is our ability to act upon the omen. So we first have to be aware of the omen, and then the omen itself includes a prescribed mode of action. And to be able to follow that action, though, is a different matter, because it's difficult. It requires us to be courageous, because we have to put ourselves out there, expose ourselves, but if we do that, then we've activated both our psychic receptivity and psychic heat. Okay, then the 3, 2, and 1 above, at the top of the tree, are our divine faculties within. This is omnipotence, all-powerful. This is omniscience, all-knowing. And this is omnipresent, all present, all at once. We can gain access to this through omnipotence, through sound and sound synchronization, whether it's mantra or sacred music, shamanic drumming, or probably cymatics, some other form, enables us to gain access to omnipotence, all powerfulness, which is really like our ability to actually fulfill this sacred mission that we started with way down here. Okay, then the second sphere is omniscience or wisdom. This is our ability to solve all our problems and solve other people's problems, and to even avoid the problems from arising in the first place. And we tap into this through a deep meditation to the point that we are able to, make our minds blank, to shut down thinking entirely. And by doing that, we calm the mind to the point that it becomes transparent. When it becomes transparent, we can see through the mind to the center, the deepest center, and that is really the image of the omnipresent. So the wisdom is the image of the omnipresent. And the omnipresent, our higher self, or our deepest center, our core, is a singularity. And if we can merge with that, so not only do we see the image through our transparent mind, but we actually sink into that, and we sink into this and merge with the singularity, then that brings us unification, because we recognize that what's at our deepest center is the same as what's at everybody else's deepest center. It's this universal one. And then the zero above the tree is like our nothingness and the mystery. This is not part of the universe. There is no zero in the universe. There is no mystery. The mystery comes from outside of the universe, but it is part of the creator. So the creator has this separate existence that is not part of the universe. And so we only have indirect access to this, meaning that there is going to be always some level of mystery involved. Okay, so that is kind of how we go through the beginning aspects of the tree. Now, to get to the second part, we're going to go through an example of one of the 144 different fractal faculties. So this is one of the categories of the mini categories of one of the categories. And what we have here is number 83. What are our innate resources of unification? This is part of the fourth sphere. So this is located in the fourth sphere, and it is the first fractal in the fourth sphere. So the fourth sphere is about cosmology, the universal law, universal language, universal love, and it is about, comparing all the different cosmologies. And then the first sphere is about unification, omnipresent, and so that is the mini aspect here of the fourth sphere. So what we're going to be talking about is kind of a combination of those things. And it's called number 83, universe of law, universe of language, universe of love. Stage number 83 is about the universal gifts that we have been given to help us become sovereign and unified on earth. Our major fortune, the bringer of all good things. Add to your faith virtue, and to virtue knowledge, and to knowledge temperance, and to temperance patience, and to patience godliness, and to godliness brotherly kindness, and to brotherly kindness charity and love. We communicate through language, consciously or not. Comprehension of the languages of beauty and symmetry are inherent, teaching us thankfulness, maximum economy, wisdom, rapport, self-sacrifice, and the conscious use of psychic skills, compassion, exploration of any subject, giving us epiphanies, things that stick with us and that we develop. This puts us within striking distance of arriving at an intuitive sense of law and order that can be summarized as the law of one. We are all one. That is the one and only law. We are all the same deep down, and we know this intuitively. If we can have enough interest and attention in natural law to have a high quality comprehension, and then with insight, we skyrocket the quality, which describes our relative proximity to beauty, truth, law, and order, which are all unified. Okay, that is kind of the short version of the fractal number 83, the first fractal of the fourth sphere. It's called Universal Law, Language, and Love. And thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. You can hit the like button. You can subscribe to the channel. Share the video with others. Make constructive comments in this comment section. You can go to the description to get your link to get the free guide to the 144 fractal faculties or stages of life. And you can donate directly to me if you're so inclined through Cash App and Venmo, also listed in the description. Stay tuned or wait until tomorrow. I will be rolling out another one of the 144 fractal faculties with a lengthy introduction, just like was given today. I like to do the introduction each time so that each video stands on its own, but also that if you watch multiple videos, you'll get a slightly different perspective. I don't go through it the same each time. Each time is different, and I feel like if you go over them multiple times, you'll kind of get all the different angles on how to, on how to approach the tree of life. And so stay tuned for tomorrow's video. And in the meantime, have a beautiful day.